Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So, yeah, I see some people are jumping on the call. I can see some familiar faces joining and some new ones too. Very nice. Welcome, everyone. So, yeah, this is our very first Digital Fashion Innovator session here on Instagram Live. And yeah, for all you guys just to know, this session is being recorded on Instagram Live, but also will be shared afterwards for those who can't make it. And yeah, all of our guests and speakers are speaking on behalf of themselves, not for their companies. And if you have any questions, like to Jackie or to both of us or what we're talking about, feel free to add them in the comments. And we'll hopefully get back to them at the end. So we're just going to have a conversation and then we'll have a look what you guys are interested in afterwards too. So with that said, I can't tell you guys how excited I am. There's been so much work that went into this platform and we're just kicking this off and creating this really easygoing, nice one-on-one session, getting these digital innovators like you, Jackie, on board to introduce you and to share your story and to learn about how you actually got into this digital fashion space because it is so brand new. And I know there's also a lot of people from universities joining in here. So hi to you guys, especially those youngsters out there that are just, you know, finding their way during all these events that are happening in the world right now. It's so important to give you guys like an example or inspiration how you guys can actually set foot and contribute with your amazing skills. So with that said, yeah, I just want to welcome everyone and welcome you, Jackie. So again, thanks for coming. And yeah, if you guys like, we can kick it off right away. We can dive right into it, shall we? Perfect. Okay, so yeah, first of all, maybe let's just start with a quick introduction. Yeah, Jackie, tell us a little about your role, where you came from, what you're doing in fashion, a little bit of your background.
Okay. So hi again, everyone. Happy to have you all on board. Lots of friendly faces I see, so that's great. Okay, so I'm currently one of the design directors for performance sport at Adidas. I currently work on the promo business. But I've been there for about 7 years in Germany, which is where I'm talking to you from today. Before that, I was in the US for about 5 years, working for Abercrombie and Fitch. And then before that, I was in the UK, which is where I'm from. I worked for Fat Face for about 5 years. And before that, kind of Arcadia Group and kind of high street London fashion. So I've definitely been around a while now. I think it's going on about 15 years, which is a little scary.
Man, and you've got so many like epic brands under your belt. I mean, so many insights and different teams and how they work and understanding like all that. Like every company works different, right? They're not all the same, for sure.
Exactly. Titles change, teams change. You know, sometimes you have a development team, sometimes you have a tech team. They have different roles. Different setups country to country also. So, you know, America tends to like secondary design roles within, so you get more layers or more levels, I would say.
Yeah.
Here we also had merchandisers instead of developers and marketeers. Yeah, so it's really different everywhere you go. Really interesting.
Yeah, and even the design role, right? I've seen companies where designers do tech packs, and other companies they just do like design packs and they hand it over to the developers. So like even the roles are so different. So it's amazing to see like where you've came from and which stops you made along the way. That's really cool.
Definitely, especially as it changes with 3D and kind of the triad of design, development and pattern becomes so much stronger and closer. I'm really personally enjoying this journey. I've had some fantastic developers in the last little while.
Yeah.
And it really builds the relationship so much closer. It's really good.
Absolutely. And so yeah, you're someone who has like these amazing brand experiences. You came from the traditional 2D fashion design world and working with CADs and even pen and drawing tech packs, right? The how do you call it, technical designs. I remember back then they had these tables with the light coming underneath, and you had your pens that just dried out terribly quickly because it was so warm, and you were doing your sketches by hand. And this is really not that long ago. So, I mean, things have changed so fast over time, and they're just constantly also adapting. And so you coming from this really unique vision, from experiencing like already a transformation from drawn sketches to CATs, and now being one of this first generation of design directors who really understand 3D design, who've seen it succeed, because we go so a long way back. We've worked together, and we saw technology succeed. We saw teams manage these transformations, and it's just so great to see also how the people are managing their everyday work also, compared and also parallel working on learning new tools and being open to this new technology. And that's something that I found very evident working with you, is that you really understood that point of that you have to have an open mindset, you have to have this open view and this curiosity for what's coming right now. And that was very evident in working with you, and you really embraced that totally in the projects that we worked on. So I would love to hear a little bit of your view of how you saw this changing over time, and how you think the role of a designer is also changing, and what it means for the designers back then, like in the traditional way, versus the new 3D designers that are actually coming up now.
Sure. That's a big question. Okay.
You can break it down.
No, you're fine. I mean, for me, I'm very pro 3D. I've been in the 3D world for kind of 4.5 years. I've been 100% designing in 3D for over 3.5 years. So I'm definitely pro, which has, you know, when you're talking to people who are traditionally 2D about changing to 3D, there are a lot of concerns and obstacles in the way of that. You know, my top opportunities that come with 3D is really the process of designing in 3D. It takes us back to exactly how it is in real life when you're pattern. You know, you have to pick your pattern first, you have to edit your pattern, you have to pick your fabric first because it then affects the drape. And I think what I was always missing in 2D is that when you're CADing, it's quite separate. You know, you don't have to pick your fabric first, so you can sometimes end up with a CAD that doesn't work for the fabric and vice versa. Or you could end up drawing seam lines on a 2D CAD that don't go anywhere, that kind of just end where the flat 2D CAD ends. And you know, and I really like 3D that it takes away these problems, because you work through it in like the traditional manner that you're taught at school, and the kind of the real order of how you make things.
Yeah, so if I hear correctly, it also gives you as a designer a lot better understanding of what you're designing, because you can actually see it in a three-dimensional room. That means, like, if you have the stitchings running along the shoulders and they're not on the back side of the sketch, you might get lost or might go missing that mistake. But if you have a 3D sketch and you turn the model in the directions, you actually see these things, and you think a lot deeper about your process and how you're designing, right?
Exactly. And on top of that, we have the whole advantage of making the process end-to-end in the future. So really bringing the vendors and the factories into that file. So as well as the triad of like design, development and pattern, you also bring tier one with all their expertise in. You know, in the end, we hope that this saves sampling, so saves money for the company or the team that you're working with. And also we hope to involve them more in the updates and things. So this hopefully will take time off of design in the future, of doing all their tech pack updates after fits and things like that. We can transition some of that workload away from design to allow design to focus on creativity and the next season. So there's lots of opportunities. But at the same time, there's a lot of obstacles. You know, 3D is much more detailed than 2D, like incredibly so. And this does take more time to produce and build. It also takes more time to edit. So after you've had a big review meeting, you do tend to need more time than traditional 2D. And sometimes this causes trickiness in the process, that people want to see options or versions of, and this can all be quite tricky in 3D.
Yeah. So the times you spend on certain tasks are reconfigured. So you might spend a little bit more time on working on a more detailed design, but if I hear you correctly, we can go ahead and save our samples then, right? So if the things are very detailed, then maybe you don't need so much feedback loops because there's less misunderstandings and stuff. So I mean, the whole process of what that a product goes through in the development and the design phase needs to be rethought, because we're going to be switching the times a little bit and spending a little more here, saving a little more time there, and so it's a lot more complex, I guess, than just saying, oh, let's just keep our schedules and our plans and everything in place, and let's just plug our 3D tool into there and just have our designers use it. It's a lot more than that, right? We have to plan, we have to rethink the schedules and how the development of the process actually happens.
Exactly, and this is, you know, this is what the leadership really need to understand. And if you haven't worked in 3D, you know, you try and change it, or you try and push it into a 2D process, and it's not. Some things in 3D are literally the opposite of how they are in 2D, and we just need to work through that. You know, it's purely calendar and process work, which we have done before and have made successful, but it constantly gets challenged and things like that. So it's tricky. I think the most interesting challenge I've come up against is really that 3D is very, very realistic, yeah, because it's based on the pattern. The fit model is exactly as your brand fit model should be. And sometimes the visuals are too realistic for people, especially if they have kind of built a brand style or a CAD style over time. Then to see the kind of really realistic sweatshirt or whatever it is you're designing, this can kind of jar people. So this also, we kind of need to set new standards of what the visual should look like. You know, things like avatars play a huge part in getting things signed off. You know, if the avatar looks too human, but he's, you know, their eyes are slightly off, this can really kind of derail an entire review meeting. So it's also really this openness to the visuals changing and the kind of standards that we've built over time changing and updating. This is really interesting to see.
Yeah, and that one effect you just mentioned with the avatar is interesting. I think it's called Canyon Valley effect or something like that. Is when the avatar gets so realistic, but it's not quite realistic. People have like a little difficulty accepting it, versus if you have something that's a little bit more, you know, more artificially styled, people can adapt a lot quicker. So that's definitely also another topic that I would love to talk about at some point. I don't want to go down that road now. But yeah, it's definitely it's a new way of presenting your styles, a new way of going into sell-in and go to market and having your clients and customers actually interact, even if they want with the designs you've been working on. And it's yeah, it's really great to hear feedback on that. So I know we have a lot of listeners, also young people from universities joining this time. So if you could give them like an advice on what you think would be important for them to prepare for this new era that's coming in fashion right now, and joining into yeah, this new 3D fashion era, taking in consideration that not all brands have transformed yet, and some are a little bit hesitant, some are already further along. What is like a general advice you can give these guys starting out right now to really kick off their career and to get their foot into the door?
I mean, I think, advice to anyone joining the 3D revolution, or whatever we want to call it, is that everything is, you know, process and calendar is playing a really big part in this, kind of unsuspectingly. And this is all being built, and, you know, after, you know, you build it one season, you work through it, you get feedback, you build it again. And this is an ongoing process and will happen for the next kind of 10 years or so. Not everything is sorted, especially also when you work with the software that you choose to work with. There are still bugs in it. It's not perfect, you know. Illustrator has been around for like 15 years and we still find bugs in it. So everything is kind of moving and evolving. It's moving quite fast, and play a part in that. You know, give your software feedback, play part in the process and feedback. But I think if you come in expecting everything to be sorted and like really streamlined, there's going to be a lot of frustration there. So my first piece of advice is really just kind of come in knowing that you're really in a new pioneering kind of industry or part of an industry, and it is not solved yet. We are working together to solve it. And that's kind of the cool bit of it. We're also building it at the same time. So just get involved, but understand it's not sorted.
Yeah, that's amazing, because it is happening, but there's still so much that has to be done. There's amazing brands out there, like at the forefront. They're putting the examples out there, and you know, and we're so happy to have them to also take that courage and that step to actually go that way and jump into the world of 3D fashion. And at the same time, there's still so much that has to be done. That's something I see also from day to day. And this transformation is going to go on years. It's not going to happen within 1 or 2 years and then we're done. This is something that's going to happen long term. And it's just like you said, I totally agree with it, that, yeah, it's the best advice you can give if you jump into a company that's in transformation mode. Things are not going to work smooth. They're not going to be perfect, and they'll be constantly moving. And it is really a great opportunity for everyone to bring also their insights and their learnings in. So even if you're coming from the university, be sure that you will have learnings that maybe will benefit this new process, and that the teams want to hear from. So definitely speak up, go to those meetings and bring in your ideas. I can't agree more with you on that. So yeah, but that also brings us to the topic mindset, being open, being okay with trial and error, testing stuff. That's a huge topic that I really, really love to talk about, because it's like the foundation of every company that wants to transform. Because our industry, our fashion design industry, is very much fixed processes. And we understand that because companies have worked so hard to get a process in place. I mean, some of these big processes, companies have worked really hard to actually get to the point where they are. And I can fully understand that it's a huge step to question things and to try something new and to bring changes along. And yeah, but it is really important, because that's the future of fashion, and there's constantly new tools coming out. There are new softwares, new insights, new technologies that we are going to constantly tap into our system. And yeah, that's why I think it's so important to talk about mindset, because that's, like I said, the foundation. If you got the right mindset as a company, you understand that you're going to have iterations and it's not going to be perfect, and not to have the expectation everything works right away is so fundamental important to actually get going in this new era. So maybe you can tell us quickly a little bit something about mindset also, and how you see the industry actually changing in this area.
Yeah, I think it's 3D is so young and moving. It's really lovely, like all different team members at all different levels sharing skills, and across kind of sharing, someone's sharing some render secrets, someone's sharing like basic shortcuts. It's a really nice pot of people coming together, and that needs to continue more. We just need to be open, especially to things like visuals changing as designers. I think that's the thing that really excites us also. So it's kind of just leaning into the excitement rather than the negativity around things. There's a lot of movement into making CADs look visually amazing, and this has always been part of fashion, but for corporate fashion, I don't think this was really a big part of that in the past. But now we're looking at building whole teams that their entire job is to visualize our CADs, for selling process or things like this. So it's really interesting how different teams might get produced in the end, or different areas of expertise. Maybe we end up splitting up the designer's role into several designers' role, but we need to really work together to figure out and then test ideas like this. So yeah, I think as every company will be kind of testing different things, trying different avatars versus CADs. different selling process. Like, it really is just a hotbed of trial and error right now, and then trying to build that into a process and hopefully roll it out. It's very open right now.
Yeah, so that really puts it on the spot also. It's like you said, the designs throughout the process, they're designs that you use internally, like for presentations, might not be the same quality as ones you need for external presentations to the market. And you always have to think about how much time you want to invest in which point, and what's really needed for those points to be efficient, to get the information across, and the effect that you need at that point. So that's also a really good point also for people joining the industry right now that don't understand the process quite that much. There's going to be different challenges depending on which job and which step of the product development you'll be working on. So yeah, with that said, I think we can all agree that this is going to be a state that is constantly moving, constantly improving. I think it's really important, if I just sum it up, that we're all open for change, and we're open to support each other and be collaborative on topics. That's definitely going to be a big point that will move the needle for the industry. And it was so good to hear your feedback on these questions, and to just give us a little bit of insight of your understanding of the industry and how you see it moving. So I think we're coming to the end. We have almost a half hour, so maybe we can go through some questions. Let me just have a look. Oh, we have Dania Andriessen here. I remember you. Hi. So that's the last question we just have. 3D fashion, is it primarily apparel focused or also footwear? Well, do you want to take that, or me?
I don't mind. I mean, personally, I'm apparel focused. And I think this is maybe the newer section. I would say 3D footwear has been around and is maybe further ahead than apparel, in my opinion. But it really will depend company to company. I think it also depends on the softwares that are available. The software that we use in apparel also allows us to do end-to-end, so involve the vendor and things. Whereas I think footwear have different software that maybe allows them to work in different ways. I know they're much more into the rendering and to the visualization things. So I think it just depends team to team.
Yeah, I also agree. It's totally different processes, by the way. Apparel design is also, even though footwear is also soft goods, it's still from the 3D design approach. It's different softwares that you use and different processes. And there's different skill sets definitely involved. And I think the footwear design had a good startup because it's closer to the traditional 3D artists out there. I think it comes easier to people that are not fashion, not from the fashion business, but from, 3D artists out there. It's a good entry point into fashion to start with footwear. Apparel, by the way, is a lot more complex because you have to have an understanding of construction. And if you're doing NFTs, that's fine. But as soon as you go into a company which is actually has digital twins that are linked to actual products, you want to make sure that you have that you gain that knowledge of pattern construction. So I mean, also for footwear, but especially for apparel. So if you're coming from a 3D artist corner and you're trying to get your foot into the industry, that's absolutely possible. Go for it. Just make sure that you educate yourself and get a little bit of ground on pattern construction. That's definitely a good one. So maybe, we can go to one more question. See the future as the fashion clothing in terms of digital clothing. You can buy a physical garment and then also have a digital double bed. That's a tricky one.
Now we're talking metaverse funds. It's a favorite topic, I would say. I mean, I think this is really one of the really exciting things happening right now. It's, been happening a few years, but again, the metaverse will continue to gain traction in the next few years, and how we really make the most of that online retail space, and ideally tie it back into like real world commerce. As a business, as a brand, we need to figure out how to make money, whether that's selling doubles, so you buy a product and you get a digital version, or whether it's the other way around. I think the world is our oyster. We just need to work into ideas on that. Super exciting.
Yeah, that's nicely said. I love that. So yeah, I feel like also there's two worlds right now out there. There's the corporate world, which is like very focused on real sample productions, and you know, they have their running lines and they need to get stuff done. And then there's this whole world of Metaverse. I know that's a catchy word for a lot of you guys, and I see it merging, but at the same time I see it also still separate, and it will be merging fully in the future, I'm sure about that. But it's definitely a great to see brands already jumping into there and experimenting and throwing their collections out there already. Super cool to see, and it's very exciting, something everyone should definitely have their eye on. But yeah, if you talk to brands, I think the main message is, and that's why also at World of Mesh we focus at the product development. You got to get the infrastructure set, you got to get your teams on board, trained, get them educated, and get those collections into 3D first before you can even jump into the metaverse and those topics. So yeah, definitely super exciting times. I think, Jacqui, you put it in a nice phrase, saying the world is our oyster. And this is also where, you know, the younger generations come in. There's so many amazing people testing new stuff and bringing amazing projects out there and sharing it with the world. So I want to encourage you guys all to continue with that. And don't underestimate, the brands are watching, they're seeing you, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll also get a job interview out of these things. So definitely want to encourage you guys on that. Yeah, you're welcome for the answers. So if you had any other questions in the feed that we didn't get back to, feel free to post it underneath the video that we'll be sharing as well. We'd love to get back to you and make sure we got everything answered. And yeah, feel free to connect and reach out to us. Also to Jacqui, we're going to have her details also in the post. And yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to you for joining today. This has been a great, I think, starting point for the series, because we covered like the groundwork strategically, how teams have to rethink mindset. And these are like the first topics I think every brand that wants to start working in 3D has to think about. And you just gave a really good insight in these areas. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, I want to...
Good luck on the series. I'll be watching carefully, really interested.
And maybe we can have you back for another topic, because I know we touched on a few other interesting things, so that would be really great as well.
Okay.
Awesome. So to all you guys out there, thanks for joining as well. Have a lovely day, evening, afternoon, morning. I'm not sure where you're calling from. And yeah, we hope to see you guys around the next series. And yeah, infos will follow then. All right? Okay. So thank you, Jacqui. Thank you guys, and bye-bye.